feel a song coming on. Clap, snap, the black crack. Grab.
Another podcast.
Yes, sir.
Another episode.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome
down,
back.
Down to podcast town.
Here we go. This episode is about our tournament.
Yeah.
That we just finished like 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had our Northern California Hobbit League 2-day tournament. We do it once a year.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second one we've held. They've been in June.
Yeah.
Each year. So.
That's been a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the middle of summer. It seems like some people sometimes are busy.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's worked well for us because last year we had 12 players.
Mm-hmm.
Finished with 10.
Mm-hmm.
This year we sold it out with 36 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. And then had some people, not be able to make it. We ended up starting with 29, finished with 28.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of growth.
Yeah, a lot of growth. It's like we said, it's our 2-day event. So we do 5 games. It was an 800-point tournament. We were kind of scrambling to allow the Armies of Middle-earth profiles.
Yeah.
It got released like 2 weeks, like it got leaked like 2 weeks before, in hand, like maybe 5-6 days before.
Quick.
Yeah,
Quick turnaround.
but we wanted to allow it because, first of all, like we knew a lot of people had armies that were like contingent on these coming out, like just the models they had. And then also the main thing I think we all wanted was the match play guide, to not just play the same 6 scenarios again. So it was kind of equal footing for everybody. Like we all didn't have too much practice with these new scenarios.
No.
Which was kind of fun because even ground for everyone. Some people get to practice and get a lot of games in, and some people can get like maybe a game in every other week or so.
Right.
So with all this new stuff dropping, it was kind of cool to see, new rules and scenarios. Like I know for myself, there was a few that surprised me, but
yeah, I think I just took it in stride. I was like, we kind of lucked out, was able to run one of the first tournaments right when this stuff came out, Armies of Middle-earth, and then the match play guide. The one thing we didn't allow was the legacy PDF, just for this. We're planning as a group in our community to allow it, but we were just a little concerned about how the continuity would work with the new edition.
People obviously wanted as much heads up as possible about what would be allowed, and because the legacy profiles hadn't been released super, with enough forewarning, we just didn't know if they were going to be busted or like, we didn't know how much attention GW was really going to give these profiles. So going forward, we're probably going to allow them, but it was just kind of too quick for us to judge on that.
Yep. There's also a little bit of ambiguity of like, they kind of said it was coming out, and they hadn't really spoke about it, so we weren't even sure it was going to drop.
Right.
So whereas the other two, the book and the armies, we knew it was coming, so we planned for it. It was fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about our list now. Let's see, and then we'll talk about some of our matchups, and then at the very end we'll do a breakdown for you guys about kind of some of the trends we saw, things like model count, who took banners, if you took monsters or mounted your heroes, fun things like that as it's a new edition, we feel is cool to track. Yeah,
it's cool to track, kind of to see how we compare to larger communities just all across the world, but also for our local meta, just for people who like to analyze that type of thing. This is always kind of fun, just to see what armies people are playing.
Yeah. So why don't you start off with your list?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I jumped right into the armies profiles, the armies Middle-earth, and I decided to go with some dragons in Moria. And before the tournament, I had gotten like maybe 2 games in with them, like 0 practice time really.
Yep.
I just really wanted to try them out. One dragon had breathe fire and the worm magic, which gives them 1 free will a turn, and then the ability to cast compel, transfix, and foil magic. And then the other dragon just had fly, and I also had Gerbers, who I made my army leader, and then just a bunch of regular goblins, no prowlers. I was just trying to get my numbers up.
Yep.
With 2 big expensive dragons. So I ended up, I think, with 38 models. total, and 2 big dragons. And my thinking with the fire breather and the magic user was, although it didn't have fly, those are two very powerful abilities. And if I can get that dragon into a central place, he can kind of pretty much control the game, which is kind of exactly what I saw. Most people that were playing against me avoided him and went after the other dragon. So I was kind of able to dictate where the engagements were.
Yep.
And then, the flyer was, he was still 5 attack dragon, 5/8 on the charge, and could fly for all the objectives. So, and then the other goblins, I really just tried to use as passively as possible and tried to not break while my dragons did the work.
Yeah.
I used Derber's ability in most of my games to the increased movement speed one.
Yep.
I didn't use the +1 to wound thing one time, even in any of the games. Even though it's a good ability, it's just not the way my army was constructed, because that has kind of a bigger payoff for a potential, bigger deficit. Like you could possibly just die. And I just wanted my goblins to not die. That was the entire point of them.
Yep. Not break.
To not break.
Not start taking courage checks with the dragons. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit too risky of an ability for me. But Derber's plus movement came in clutch. His 12-inch stand fast came in clutch the one time I did break.
Okay.
And yeah, that was pretty much it.
Then you also made a choice not to bring the banner.
I did, because the drum is 75 points.
Yeah.
And you can't. It does count as banner VPs, but that would have cost me like 12 models, more than that.
Yeah.
So, and I was
insane.
at 38. So to have in the 20s, just that many goblins at an 800 point event, wasn't doable. So I did decide to make that tough decision to not bring a banner, which did influence a decent amount of games. Mm-hmm. It influenced my veto strategy.
Yep.
But it was not something I didn't feel I couldn't overcome, because I had ways to deal with the opponent's banner if they had it. Like I had the flying monster, or I had the magic to compel them out, or the breathe fire on them.
Right.
So I had that in mind when I didn't take the banner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is huge. Because if you're not going to take one, you better have an answer for one, or a way to take one out.
Yeah, yeah.
My list is, been playing with it for a while, practicing pretty good with it. I liked how it all kind of came together. I was playing Men of the West, 800 points, Aragorn, King Elisar, all Minas Tirith guys, and one Rohan guy with a bow. And then the next group was Legolas, Cloak and Armor, bunch of Minas Tirith dudes again, and the banner was in that one, and he also had a Rohan guy with a bow, and then I brought Gwaihir. It seems like a pretty sweet spot for that list. 800 points, I think it performed well, and I feel like it has a lot of answers. It's really weird when I'm looking at my list that my opponent would probably be the third thing on his list of things that he needs to worry about is Aragorn. Because the way that Gwaihir is in the game and the way that Legolas is in the game, they're just creating constant pressure on you, right? Which is, a trade-off, because I'm not bringing any cav, I'm not bringing any, nothing's mounted, so I am kind of going all in on the flying monster. But I practiced with it enough that I felt pretty confident, and I think the scenarios, having a 12-inch flying Gwaihir that can just start off a game right next to Aragorn when he's freely marching, and you just... Yeah,
it's a good combo.
Does he fly 17 on a march? Or does he fly 15? And I was probably playing this wrong, but I don't know. It's a long ways, it's a long ways. It's a long ways to go grab an objective, and then he's intelligent and he can pick up things. I played him. I know he's super strong. This was our 100 point, event, but I do kind of think he's weirdly pointed for how effective he is. And then Legolas, weirdly, again, you don't even need shooting as long as you got him. He's as efficient as a whole gun line of dudes. So yeah, you bring like that kind of guy, and he does exactly what he does in the movies. They made the model exactly like he does. You just stick him up somewhere, and he just fires off shots, covers your whole army, and then when you need him in combat, he just comes down and starts pumping dudes with arrows. Or pinpoint shotting a guy and helping you out. I mean, it's themey, but I do get that those two models are pretty strong.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, those are two models that people immediately highlighted as like kind of the stronger. Well, mostly because they got kind of buffed from the last edition.
Yeah.
So, and they were already kind of viewed as good in the last edition. So naturally people thought, oh, they're really good now.
Correct.
Which they are. But I mean, specifically for Legolas, I feel like there are games where he can do nothing. And then there are games where he's like the MVP. And it's kind of like very little in between.
Yeah.
Did you kind of feel that way?
Oh yeah. There was times where it was like that. But I think he got the hint. And later in the tournament, he really heated up. Yeah, my boys, I just don't think they had breakfast, and we're gonna learn about that. I think they had second breakfast though, and we'll get into it. So we're gonna go into those are our lists. We'll go into our first round. The first round we were doing veto. I don't know if we told you guys that already, but it was random, fully random. And so.
Meaning you could get two scenarios from the same pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was T.O. just put him in a number generator, popped him out, whatever the three he got, plop him on the table and you go. So, yeah, what was that first round?
It was capture and control, breakthrough, and command the battlefield.
Okay. I'll start.
Okay.
I'll start. So I'm playing Jonathan, first time ever playing him, and I was really excited. I've never played a guy, and that's always kind of my goal at these events is to just, if I can, play all new people. So really excited to play him. He brought Army of the White Hand. He had Uruks and Orcs and some Warg Riders. No Crebain, no Wildman. I know, Scott, cry, tear. But then he did have his banner, and he had Grima, and he threw him in Aragorn's face. He vetoed. Gosh, what was the last one you said?
Capture and control, breakthrough, command the battlefield.
Yeah, so I think he vetoed command the battlefield, and then I had to choose between. He didn't want Maelstrom, so he made me choose between breakthrough and. You know what? I think I vetoed command the battlefield. That makes more sense.
That does make more sense.
Yeah, I vetoed command the battlefield. And then he had to decide between capture and control and breakthrough. And he smartly picked capture and control because my army has dominant 2 when they're around the heroes. So breakthrough actually really is a strong one for me. And along with Gwai here, just flying to the back. So he did capture and control, which is tag and leave it. At first I thought, great, like I have less models, I can tag, I can push and leave it, but it just wasn't the case. He has just so many models. There's a lot of strength 4, so they were more punchy than I was expecting from Army of the White Hand, which is, I normally see it with more just like strength 3. So even when I had some shield walls up and won some fights, then as the game went on, his numbers were just weighing on me. I will say that I was hoping for a little bit of early game good karma because he had set up his Sauron in the middle of the, like right behind his line, maybe 6 inches back from his. He had guys right on the middle objective, and then he had Sauron like 6 inches back. I think it was to get a centralized point. I think he even was maybe trying to transfix or flame burst or something Legolas. He forgot about Stalk Unseen on the Elven Cloak. And so then I kind of had felt bad a little bit there at that point because he did say I would like to cast Flame Burst on Legolas, and I was like, oh dude, I don't think you need to be within 6. Because he didn't have the Crebain. And so then as the turn went on, I got Aragorn and Gwai here. I just picked my spot and had them tag the same guy. And I called the heroic combat and gave him a chance to counter. And he kind of just like, no, I'm good. My captains don't want a heroic combat yet. I was like, okay, do you want to call anything else? He said no, and at that point, it was clear. I think he just forgot about defense or forgot that the move was there for Gwaihir to go right in. And so I just he asked, like, am I forgetting something here? Am I missing something? And I was like, I think you probably want a heroic defense on Sauron. Yeah. Because I can get in there this turn. It's pretty, it's pretty, but the karma didn't come back this game. and he just dragged it out. Sauron defensed and he stayed alive, and then he compelled and he used the Palantir. A lot of good stuff. And I got so entrenched on Sauron, focusing on that, thinking that if I can just take him out, there's no magic threat, there's no high fight value, and I can just clean up. Right. It just took forever. He compelled Gwaihir. Gwaihir was fighting an orc, lost one orc. Another turn, he fought again. He was compelled. I mean, he did masterful on shutting my heroes down, but there was times where the dice just were brutal for me. Right. Aragorn fighting Sauron 1-on-1, lost. One die, rolled a 6. Props to him. He got the 6 he needed, but it just dragged and dragged until the very final turn. Legolas shot him and killed him, but the game was already decided. He had everything tagged up. I couldn't retain an objective at all. Yeah. He ended up beating me 17-3. Nice big whooping. But I got that general kill, which was cool. Yeah.
Which was like the 3rd tiebreaker or whatever.
Oh, it was like the 4th. But I was like, hey, in the back of my head, I was like, I did get that general kill. I was set out to do it, and I did it. But my whole army folded up trying to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first game was against Marcello. He brought Minas Morgul. First time playing against him. He's a really, really awesome guy, really good player. He brought the Witch King on Fellbeast. He had another Ring Wraith on foot, a Taskmaster, and a Orc Captain. And then he had like basically a front line of Morannons and a back line of Mordor Orcs, which get the Blade of the Dead rule. And he had a couple Spectres kind of spotted around. And he had his banner, and he had the Troll Drummer. Yep. So he didn't take anything with the Witch King. He didn't take like the crown or the Morgul blade or anything. It was just him on Fellbeast. Right. So the 3 scenarios, I wasn't sure. Like I was a little conflicted, but because I didn't have a banner and he did, my natural instinct was to veto Breakthrough because of the banner VPs. But Capture and Control with the Maelstrom and getting each quadrant, him having the Troll Drummer.
That's Command the Battlefield.
Right. Sorry, yeah. What I say?
You said Capture and Control, but
yeah. Command the Battlefield with the quadrants and the him able to march and fly his Fellbeast around. I wasn't confident about being able to get that one. Also, like I said, I want my Fire Breather to be, because he's not super mobile, to be in the center, and like that. Literally, there's no point in being in the center.
Dead man zone, it's really called, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, and if I Maelstrom in terrible with that dragon, it's out of the game for several turns. Yep. So I had to veto that one. So then he vetoed Capture and Control, and then we did Breakthrough. Okay. So, which I think was correct for him to veto because he had the banner. Now, the other reason why I was a little more comfortable with getting into Breakthrough was because, yes, there was the 2 VPs for the banner, but there was also 2 VPs for killing the next highest model.
Yeah.
Right?
That's new.
Which is new.
Yep.
And for him, that was his Troll Drummer, which has 0 fate, and I have a Breathe Fire that auto kills. Yep. If he doesn't fade away the wound. So I was thinking in my head, okay, so that at least evens. I have a very strong chance of evening out those points, and that's how the game started. Turn 1, I was able to Breathe Fire and get him, and I was like, okay, so I got my 2 VPs. He has his 2 VPs. It's an even game now. The way that we deployed, I put my Fire Breather in the center. He did the Ringwraith's Warband kind of on his right flank, my left. I I put Durbers on the left flank to match that, and then he put his captain on my right, and I put my dragon on the right, and then he put his Witch King Felbeast on the right. And the way that the board was, we had Mike's really awesome Doggle Door board, pretty dense terrain, and by putting his Witch King on the right, there's this big building, like right, shutting it off basically. So it was pretty much his Witch King versus my dragon on that side. That's like kind of how, and then I pretty much had control of the center, like for the most of the game. Now, throughout the game, he was compelling and transfixing, and I wasn't able to resist a ton with my flying dragon. So it did nothing for like 3 turns.
Okay.
But he kept his Witch King over there to keep his eye on it. So it was kind of like a standoff.
Yeah.
And similarly pointed models. So I wasn't frustrated that my dragon was doing nothing because it was keeping his Witch King like
occupied,
super occupied.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he charge it?
No. He just kept it behind his lines. Like
he never charged him with the Witch King?
He never charged him with the Witch King. He just kept him back there casting.
Okay.
And so we kind of had a stalemate there on that right objective. And he didn't put anything in the middle. He completely ignored the middle. So the goblins that I put in the middle just ran up onto his objective. They were there in a few turns. Like nothing to stop them.
Okay.
And then my dragon the fire breather was in the middle, and it was able to kind of breathe fire onto the left objective. It could breathe onto the back objective if needed, and it could even breathe onto my objective if needed. So I thought I was in a pretty good spot, but the combat's just like I said, I really don't want my goblins to break. Well, they broke so damn fast. Like the Blades of the Dead were just slicing through them, and
yep.
It only took a few rounds of combat for him to end up breaking me. And then once I was broken, like I said, Durbers' stand fast was really helpful, but it didn't cover the entire board.
No.
So I had a lot of the goblins run off their objectives. They just ran away. The dragons were fine. And then on the last turn, which was very swingy, he threw 2 transfixes. The first one was from his foot ring wraith onto the fire breather, and then the second was from his Witch King. I spent the will and the might to resist the first one, and then couldn't resist the last one. Got the transfix off, and then he was able to just barely get onto my back objective.
With the Witch King?
No, his Witch King flew back to knock my guy's back off of the one I was contesting, his back one.
Oh,
yeah,
barge?
So, yeah. And so he had been marching up on one of the flanks where my goblins just ran away, and managed to get a couple orcs and his taskmaster onto the back objective.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a very close game, and then he ended up hiding his banner. He just like ran into a building somewhere.
What was your other blue dragon doing while he was doing all that transfixing that last turn?
Yeah, so the blue dragon was doing a good job barging and charging and kind of holding down that right objective. And then on the last turn, when we thought it was the last turn, I brought that dragon back to help defend my objective.
Oh, the base?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I barely got in, but then of course it was, against his orc and lost the combat. I had no might left, and it pushed my dragon off of the 3 inches.
Oh goodness. Wait,
yeah.
Did you charge?
Mm-hmm. I charged.
5 dice?
5 dice.
See, you feel my pain.
Yep. So he was able to get my back objective and push my dragon off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were barely in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I was barely in the first place because he was contesting all the stuff on the right. And I was just mathing out like, okay, it's more important for him to fly back and get that or deny that as opposed to contest the side. So
was there a way for you to do it without charging? Or did you need to charge,
I think I was only like 2 models off breaking him. So I was trying to also break him.
Right.
Because I was already broken.
It's funny how dominant works now. Like you don't even sometimes need to go in for the kill. You just plop, and it's like a VP denial.
Yeah.
So, like that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I could have done that, but I was trying to break him because I had goblins in some other combats where I was like, okay, I only need to kill like, it's only like 2 or 3. Like I was pretty close to breaking him. And it just didn't happen.
Right.
So.
Kind of like once you're broken too, you don't really care about breaking harder. Like, yeah, so you could just breathe fire and like, but you were transfixed.
Right.
But you know, I know how that comes up some games where you're like, okay, like I'm already broken, so now I can kind of just suicide it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so it ended up being a 6 to 15 loss for me on the first round.
Okay.
Yeah.
6 to 15, and mine was 17 to 3. Took some beatings.
Yeah, first round was not good for us.
No, no. The magic guys came for us.
We'll have our revenge.
Yeah. So we go second round.
Yeah.
The scenarios here, and I think I kind of messed these up because what did we have on this?
We had retrieval, storm the camp, and assassination.
Okay. Retrieval. Okay, so I'm playing Wally now. He's 11. I played him last tournament. This was a weird situation where I lost the first game by such a brutal amount that I ended in that, you know, I guess the bottom part of the tournament bracket. And Wally had just played Gary and lost, so it was gonna be a weird spot where I did need to try to get some points out of it, but I wanted to try to be fun for him a little bit, or somewhere he could learn. But you know, it's Wally, he's really good. So he's not playing around really either. So you gotta be smart, and you can't just like, you gotta stay on your, know. So we played Retrieval. That was what we ended up playing. Storm the Camp, I think he had vetoed that one.
What was he playing?
He was playing the Rise of the Necromancer.
Okay.
And he plays it with, obviously, the Necromancer. He brought the Witch King for Might. He called him the Witch King of Might Battery or something. And then he brought the Forsaken, who is the one that gets Bane of Kings.
Okay.
And then, of course, he brought the Lingering Shadow, which I think is like probably the best one.
Yeah.
And then he had
the Keeper, right?
Yeah, he brought the Keeper.
Yeah.
He really wanted to bring that Keeper. And so he brought him, and he's burly and he can strike, and he's good against wizards and stuff like that. But I think there was just a big deployment error because the way we were laying things out, I just plop Aragorn down right in the middle for like first thing. I think he put some like wargs down first, and the Witch King, and then I just stuck Aragorn. I'm like, hey, we're gonna be within 6 because you put him right at the front, and Retrieval has that dead space.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get right into him. He had a lesser, we kind of had similar model count, but I just felt like my guys were I have resistance to magic. I can call free resolves every turn. Gwaihir's a little susceptible to magic, but I could also just stay really far away from that.
Right.
The Necromancer.
Right.
And that was where the deployment came in. He put a couple guys in the front, in the middle, and then he put the Necromancer like way off on the right, like on the flank. And I kind of feel like that should have been reversed. The Necromancer kind of needs to be central to give that buff, so everyone's like regenerating or coming back. And then like wargs and a might battery on the side is great to go around.
Yes. Yeah.
So he did do some good flanking with the Keeper because he put him on the far side. So he kind of did a central group with might, Necromancer, Keeper, and then he had the Forsaken as the back guy. And he did have it right, Lingering Shadow front lines to kind of blitz towards my Retrieval token. I was worried about that, so I bubbled mine up. Because that thing will just like teleport into your thing.
Yeah.
It's like, look, basically like a free move because I resurrected 3 inches away from my token. Then before priority, I moved.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that is how that works.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was killing that thing with Legolas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Trying to lower its revival chance because of
the Elven stuff.
Elven, same thing with Aragorn. I was like saving all my other dice. I'm like, I'm doing Aragorn's first. I want the 1 kill.
Yeah.
Trying, but all his stuff kept coming back. So I was kind of getting a little frustrated that they weren't flying away or running because they just keep coming back.
Yeah.
And so then I just kind of refocused and went everything on the Necromancer because Gwaihir had already cleaned up, grabbed on the heroic, called the heroic, grabbed the objective, flew off.
Right.
He had it. And I was just kind of picking my spots, being outside of any charge range.
Right.
Even if he had a heroic move from like the keeper or any other model, I was just staying away.
Right.
So I pretty much knew I could get off the board with Guahir as soon as I wanted.
Right.
But I also knew that I still needed Guahir for some punch, because the list doesn't have as much punch as you think.
Right.
It's Aragorn and Guahir, and then you're shooting things to death. So I kept him around a little longer than I would have liked to, but he cleaned up. He took out the keepers group, some spiders and some shooters, and then yeah, it was pretty cool. And we had like an epic battle at the very end where his lingering shadow finally got to where Legolas had been hiding, like up in some like the stables, Conquest Creation stables.
Yeah. And
he's like shooting out this window, and he's like, I am sick of this dude shooting me. So he kept darting the lingering shadow, sent him upstairs, right? Smart. And then I tried to bring some Minas Tirith guys in to say, like, to help. He's like, I don't know, bro, can you see me? And I was like, good point. No, I can't. So I can't charge you. Charge Legolas in, bring a guy up to support. But Leggy can shoot.
Right, in the combat.
Leggy pumped 3 shots into him and killed him, and he's like, well, that was that. And then Aragorn took down his second leader of the tournament. We killed the Necromancer on the last turn. So a lot of fate on that thing, dude.
Yeah.
He rolled, I got 3 wounds on it one turn. He rolled triple 6s and just like faded it. Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. I'm like, all right. So yeah, we talked after. He's great. He's always willing to learn, and we talked afterwards, and I think it helped him in the next round.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
20-0.
Yeah. Okay, so my next game was against Tyler. He had Army of Erebor. Is that the right one?
This is Tyler Gilbert?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Modesta? Yeah.
Yes. So he had Old King Dane, he had Gimli and Gloin, and he had Bifur. And Bifur was the bane of my existence. I'll go into that. But so all 3 of these scenarios I felt was pretty favorable for me.
Yeah.
Right. Retrieval, flying dragon against dwarves. Storm the camp, flying dragon against dwarves.
Yep.
Who have no march, by the way. And assassination, which again, like I could
pick your target.
Yeah. So I was honestly pretty happy with all of these. I had vetoed first. I chose assassination because there was just a chance that like my dragons would just run away, you know, if they got a wound. So, and I was pretty confident that I could get the other 2 scenarios done. And so he vetoed Storm the Camp because he's like, there's no freaking way my dwarves are getting to your side.
Not in a single day.
No. So we decided to do Retrieval. And again, I deployed my Fire Breather Central. You'll notice the theme, Central, right in the middle.
Yep.
And put Durbers there to support him, and the Flying Dragon kind of on my right flank. And he had kind of lined up almost all the way across. He had like the center and my left with Gimli and Gloin. And then he had Dane, and he decided to put Dane and Bifur down like right next to my
flying one.
Flying one.
Okay.
Yeah, and turn 1, he just went for it. He charged in onto the fire, struck up with Dane. Did not strike high enough.
Oof.
Yeah, I called the heroic defense just in case, but he didn't strike high enough.
Did he get the charge?
He charged me.
Yeah, so you're not getting monstrous charge.
Right.
But is Dane 7 or 6?
He's 6.
Old man is 6.
Yeah.
Young man
is 6.
Young man's
so
7.
I think he rolled a 2 and so he got a 1. You know, going up to fight 7, which the dragons are fight 8.
Yeah. He went 3 up to tie. Yeah.
And let's see. Oh no, you know what it was? I did charge. I moved first, and I couldn't get to Dane. I did have the monstrous charge. I just charged a couple of dwarves, thinking I was going to just heroic combat and fly over, right?
Okay.
And then on his turn, he tried to surround. He couldn't quite because there was some forests on either side, but he did charge in with Dane.
Okay.
and failed the strike off. So
And no trap.
and no trap.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I won that combat, and like I said, my plan was to just heroic combat off the 2 dwarves I charged.
Yeah.
But because Dane had come in and joined, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try to kill the leader. And he has 3 wounds. He only has 1 fate.
Yeah.
He's defense 7, 8, defense 8.
Okay.
Right.
4's either way.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm only strength 7.
Oh,
But-
so the 8 was the big
Yeah.
difference. Okay.
Yeah. And I decided to put 10 dice into him needing 5s as opposed to 5 dice needing, would have been 3s
On the rend?
on the rend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm honestly still not sure if you get that +1 on the monsters, like the monsters.
Yeah, I don't know.
But 5 dice or 10 dice, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So I rolled them all, and I got 2 5s. Everything else was a 3 or a 1, and then there was 1 4. So I mited that 4 up to a 5. I was like, all right, if you get it with your 1 fate, you got it.
And he's already used the might because of the strike, so he's
right.
got 2
And
left.
then so he rolled a 2 and used both of his might. So Dane was out of might.
Okay.
Right. However, Biffer succeeded in getting his darn axe out of his head the first combat, and he was right there next to
near
Dane.
the goblins, he
He fought a goblin and got it right out of his head. And so for the rest of the game, he succeeded those intelligence checks and got those free heroic moves. And my dragon, who I was planning to go get the relic, was just stuck there,
Tied up
the whole game, pretty much. The bunch of heroic move after heroic move for free, just boom, 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 boom. And I was like, this is.
And you already spent some might to try to kill Dane.
I spent a might to heroic defense.
Defense.
And then a might to try to wound and end him.
Interesting.
So I was down to 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So I never called a heroic move with it because I was like, there's a 50-50 shot, and then like I'm done.
How many dwarves did he have into you on the first turn? You said you weren't trapped. Mm-hmm. He had Dane and what, like a couple others, or was there a bunch?
There was a decent amount, like with the spear supports and stuff.
Yeah, with the spears, and those are +1 to wound. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I get it. Yeah, and then you spend another. So you had one. You only had 1 might. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I knew I was out fighting him because he couldn't strike.
Yeah.
And so I was just saving that might for when he failed his intelligence check to call the move and get out of there.
And get out of there. Yep.
Which he didn't do for many turns until he did fail at one time.
Okay.
But so for this whole game where I was like, oh, from the start I was like, oh, I probably have this in the bag. It did not go that way. It took a long time for my dragon to finally win, or for him to not get the intelligence check, for my dragon to call the move and fly over there, and then I didn't get into combat with anyone. There was no one there for him to contest that dragon. Eventually it got to the relic, and then it managed to fly back onto my half of the board. I didn't get it off the corner because it took so long to get there. But, and then, so the rest of that was kind of like the one side. And then on the other side, my fire breather was pretty much controlling, like he was very, very cautious of like pushing forward because of the fire breathing. And even though it didn't go off very much that game, or the spell casting, it still, like, he couldn't play as if it wasn't gonna go off. So he was being very cautious with that. And eventually he managed to start pushing in and putting pressure on his prize that he was trying to grab, but at that point it was too late. And I got a couple lucky bow shots off with my like 3 random goblin bowmen. Managed to snipe them, like the couple guys that managed to get towards the back there.
The goat rider, right?
Yeah, they got a goat rider, and they got just a random dude.
That's where your good dice rolls went.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
You know, just 6 is the wound, 5's a hit, 6 is the wound, and they did it.
Yeah, right.
But, I had a couple goblins back there to like mess with him, but it would have come down to priority, like whether or not he could have got it. So,
yeah.
Because no might was back there.
And the goats just knock you prone, right, on a charge?
On a 5-up.
They don't potentially do any damage, right? Okay.
No.
And then so you didn't really get fire breathing off.
No.
Did he, that's the side that it would have been Gloin and Gimli, right? Mm-hmm. He never was able to do like a heroic combat, or did he kill Durbers, or?
No, he got into Durbers Maybe the second to last round.
Oh. Goblins really held him up, huh?
Oh yeah. The goblins actually, because he like I said, he played really cautious. He didn't charge forward engaging me right away. He kind of like spread guys out and like kind of maneuvered. And I didn't run up with my goblins because again, that's not what I'm doing with them. I'm like kind of trying to not get into combat with them. So
you're baiting him with
my
the
first turn. I don't think I even moved those goblins. Like, they just kind of stood there and were like, okay, if you're not coming forward, I'm not coming forward. So it took a couple turns to get into combat over there. So really not much ended up happening. And then finally when he did get into combat, of course he slaughtered all the goblins. But it took a while to get to that point.
Okay. I was trying to think. The only thing I could really think of was either just try to break you, right? Yeah. Because you're breathing fire into your own goblins at that point. If you're trying to kill my own dudes, right? Or, do the Gimli glowing combo, right? And try to get into Durbers, or just try to like shoot off into the dragon, right? And just put some wounds on him.
Yeah. So the way it was on your Angmar board, and there was kind of a couple of choke points where like there's just like those walls. Right, those like little low walls.
Low walls, yep.
Yeah, so like that's kind of just like kind of ran my goblins up and then just defended those.
Defended, there you go.
Yeah,
nice.
and then put them in the gaps like in between. So like he couldn't really get past them.
No, I did want to give you a little shout out there because that board wasn't in your favor at all. Like it had a bunch of woods. And you were running the 2 dragons. I know one of them doesn't have fly, so he can casually walk 6 inches or 3 inches, but. I mean, the flying one, it's not helpful because there's not spots to always land with that big base, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, and that was throughout the tournament. Like, those giant bases are so hard to maneuver. Dragons are very strong, but they almost never get to where you want them to be. So that's just something you have to, like, play around.
Yeah, that's why I was saying when you played Breakthrough in the first round, that was nice. No objective in the middle. Capture and Control has an objective dead center, and that would really limit you because you can't end on it, right? So
yeah. So anyways, I think that one was a 10-3 victory to me or something like that. About that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds like it was a interesting one. That sounded fun.
It was a fun one. It was a lot closer than I thought it would be going into it. Tyler played well, and he put up a pretty darn good fight. And I think a scenario pool that did not favor him at all.
No, and it's dwarves versus dragons and goblins. I mean, that's just super thematic. He loves a good themey battle. It sounds like what he did with Dane was themey, just like, I'm going for it.
Right, yeah, cool. He just went for it.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorite players to play. He's always good energy. Yeah. Okay, so third round, this is the last round of day 1. Yep. So I would say that it's starting to weigh on people a little. We're playing 800-point games, and the amount of time we've been playing, or since we've been there, it's probably starting to get on some people. But I was playing a semi-fresh player because I was playing Oscar in the Shire, and he had taken the bye very graciously in the first round. Took the bye. We had an odd number, it was unfortunate, and he volunteered. So this is his second game. He's playing that new Shire one with like, well, I say it's new because I think it was like unplayable in the first batch. Like, there wasn't really a list.
There were no warriors.
Yeah, it was like a shell of like, ooh, look at this, of what could be and so there are a lot of cool things. Oscar, I think, is like a pro with the Hobbits. It's his main list. He played it in the old edition. There's a lot of new tricks in it this time, including the fireworks, Gandalf on cart. For me, I like that a lot more. I've even looked at this list. The Gandalf cart is a point tax that keeps the number threshold down, so the game flows a lot better. I like that. Oscar also plays pretty quick for moving 80 models or 100. So this scenario pool was a little rough for him, I think, but I think there's going to be a lot of rough scenarios for Hobbits just in general. This one had Seize the Prizes.
Yep. Escort the Wounded and Clash by Moonlight.
Okay, so Clash by Moonlight's in the dark, and he has pebbles, very sharp ones, and then also he's got like
100 of them.
He maxed bows at like 24. Yeah. So yeah, that wasn't really looking too hot. Even if it does favor like breaking your opponent and killing heroes, which he has a bunch of 10-point little guys that I can squish. I just think that like a turn or two of that shooting at +1 to win. My army is kind of reliant on its defense, and I only have 34 models. I mean, even like shooting Gwaihir, just he's a large target. You could just light him up, right? No, that was off the table. Sees the prize was off the table for him. He's like, I can't get to those.
Right.
So now we're like, I think it was kind of like, oh, well, let's just try this new one out, escort the wounded, right? Which I thankfully have had that one practice game against you. Gwaihir's a beast in that because it's a large object, heavy object, and he can pick it up, and then, you know, my boys were just tanking it, carrying it 2 apiece, and I'm marching with Aragorn. So I was on his side of the board early on, took some volleys to the face from these like Tookish hunters or whatever. But the game really came down to like one thing, right? He said up front that he deployed wrong. I don't have any idea what this army does really. Like, I just know the fireworks and Gandalf, but like all the hobbits to me all look the same. I can't tell. Not one of them is like any GW model that's like, this is a hero, he's on a rock. You have no idea, right? So
this is a sheriff. This is a
yeah, like this guy. These guys all have hats, and then this guy has his hat off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
but they're also like very small and hard to tell. So, I've learned that playing with Oscar before is it's sometimes you just gotta know there's some tricks. But you just gotta blitz them, because the best thing you can do against the hobbits is be in combat and just be eating dudes up the whole time. Because I was wounding on 4s. They have no defense. They're in shirts and khaki pants, right? And then what the game came down to was that there was this one point in the game where I had hid Gwaihir behind a pillar. And kind of like a bishop in chess, I could look, and if he approached on the left, I could have charged, and I was in a spot to charge, or I could go the other side of the pillar and charge. I picked the side that I basically decided to have Gwaihir grab an objective, Aragorn and the bros pick up the middle and left one, and then we were all going to converge on the left, breaking him as we go.
Right.
Leaving a couple guys over here, knowing that he has nothing fast. He kind of thought that the dogs could pick it up. That was a blunder.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're beasts. And then like there was something about Lobelia being on the wrong, or some Lobelia and the banner were on the wrong side. But I have no idea. I'm just like, he's like, dude, oh my God, I messed this up. And I'm like, bro, you could have juked me out. I had no idea. But his big threat was the fireworks.
Right.
And he thoroughly explained all this to me, and I knew that there was one in there that could really mess with Gwaihir, the super shot.
Yeah.
And he tried to I think he tried to transfix Gwaihir, maybe, or something, and I resisted it.
Yeah.
And then now Gwaihir's dead center in the middle of the board, and I'm like a turn away from getting him over near Aragorn where there's infinite might. Gandalf brings the cart over, he's lining up the fireworks, he's got the show ready, and he's like, oh yeah, I forgot. He cast from further away, but then he realized to do the firework he has to be within 6. So he scoots the cart up, and I'm like, okay, but just a heads up, now Legolas can see you. And he's like, oh, okay, but there's an in the way, right, for this? And I'm like, yeah, there is. Well, I looked at the cart. It has 3 wounds, but defense 3. So Legolas needs 4s to wound it.
Yep.
Legolas has full kit, and his list, it doesn't really have too much that you're gonna really hard target other than that cart.
Right.
So I knew his might was kind of it's not a normal game where there's a banner and a bunch of different targets. Really tough situation that I came across. I rolled my 3 hits. Those are easy, 2-ups. They all hit. Then this in the way comes, and I roll a 5, 3, and a 3. Now, I kind of have a rule of thumb that you never might something unless it's a guarantee. Well, that's not a guarantee.
You still got to roll the wound, yeah.
You still got to roll the wound, but then I'm looking at him it's kind of tasty with a 4-up, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm also if he takes Gwaihir out right here and just becomes trapped, and then I have no way to score, this is going to bog it down. What else am I going to use Legolas' might on?
Right.
I'm like, yep, let's do it. 5, 4, 4. So they all go through. I have 1 might in the bank, knowing that if I roll a 4, 4, and a 3, I can still take this card out. And Leggy came through for me. He woke up, had his second breakfast, got his 6, 5, 4, and banged that cart.
Nice.
Gandalf was down. He just, dismounted gracefully, but no fireworks.
Right.
Gwaihir calls a hero combat. kills two hobbits on the way out, escorts the wounded, and then he's just on the other side, and like he came back for another one, took some guys out of the way and grabbed that and flew it back. So I ended up getting 2, and then it worked like a charm on the other side. I had just put a handful of dudes, an archer and three models.
Right.
And right as he got close, I just charged the 2 in the front. He popped blinding light over there. That was fine. Couldn't shoot him.
Right.
But then I just ran out and tagged the front 2. Well, I only need Forged a Wound.
Yeah.
They dropped it.
Yeah.
Game ended. He was broken. He had possession of 1 on my side. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then, broke. Got 2 of the escorted wounded there. And then I had the other one in my possession on his side.
Right.
Banner VPs was in that.
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
Escort the wounded?
Yeah.
I think so.
So, maybe. I forgot I hid my banner. So, yep, that was how we ended the day. Came back from a couple of that really rough first game, and then I got a couple good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, so my third game was against Umbar. He had like 57 models, but only 12 bows. Usually when you think Umbar, you think, oh my god, like shooty, throwing.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. So the 3 scenarios, let's see, what were they again? They were seize the prizes, escort the wounded, and clash by moonlight. Well, he vetoed escort the wounded right off the bat, which was the correct choice.
Yep.
And so I was left choosing between seize the prizes and clash by moonlight. Both of which I was like, okay, I think I like both of these. Seize the prizes, obviously I have the dragons that can go get those things, but he had a lot of models and he had march, which my goblins did not have march. And depending on rolls, like there was a chance like that could go, at least I couldn't score as, max VPs if that's the way I was gonna think.
Yep.
With Clash by Moonlight, it was like get in the center. Okay, I want my fire breather in the center. Kill heroes. Okay, he has, Dalamir and like Hasharans, like pretty squishy heroes.
Squishy heroes, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, let's do that. So went for Clash by Moonlight, and all of his models have that stock unseen.
Yep.
But when you have 57 of them, it's just, you can't hide them all.
No.
And that dragon only has to see 1 to get off the fire breath and blast everything around it. And I think turn 1, he had kind of a little bit of a misplay because he marched like straight up, but then realized, oh, I have to keep everyone like within 6 inches. So he had like 6 inches, a solid mass of bodies, right? Like there was no space between any of these guys. Yeah, so I was able to...
He doesn't have to keep them all together. He can move them before.
He can.
But only that group,
And he chose to keep the group together.
Yeah.
Which was the prime fire-breathing target. And yeah, he lost quite a few models. But it was... He did a decent job trying to come around and flank me, but my flying dragon was able to heroic combat and get in on his heroes pretty quick. I think actually my 3 goblin archers killed Dalamir. Like I don't think my dragon even did that. Just shooting into combats and like killing them with their plus
Stock
on the
unseen?
I mean, he wasn't. They saw him. He wasn't.
Yeah. Wow.
He wasn't behind anything. He was trying to fight.
Okay. Smoke bombs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but he was just fighting regular goblins, and I was shooting into the combat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it just kind of snowballed. And then when I broke him, at the time when I broke him, he had no heroes left, so there was no stand fast.
That's checks for every single
checks for everything. Harbinger, like it was bad. They all ran.
They all ran, yeah.
So it was an 18. It was an 18-0 because I don't have a banner.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a 4-point banner scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If your opponent kept his.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you get some for having one, which I just don't have. So.
Right. So it's 18-2?
18-2. Yeah.
Yeah, he would have got the 2 points for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then obviously you maintain the center. That's cool. I like that they changed that in Clash.
Mm-hmm.
They made that centerpiece, I think.
Yeah,
so you
it was
just sit back and get.
right.
Like, yeah, that's fine. You can shoot me to death. but like there's
But
some
you still got to
value.
get to the center. Yeah, so like that that moonlight, fighting at night it comes into play, but like you still kind of have to come to a head at some point right there.
Yeah,
So
they want you to clash.
they do.
They do.
They do.
Okay.
And so that's how the last game of the first day ended.
Cool. I am going to take a quick pause here because I wanted to give a shout out to Lefty's Tap Room. It's where we went after the tournament.
Yeah.
I was so happy with this, man. We had I think 80% turnout rate of everyone that went to the tournament went here after.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys there.
Super family friendly. Like the 11-year-old and 9-year-old came. Their mom was happy about that. She was skeptical at first, but then she saw the place and it was like, no, this is a good spot. Like picnic style, but also just from a community perspective, this is one of the coolest points of the whole event. We had all played, win or lose. A lot of us showed up, just chopping it up, talking about our games, hearing about how other people did, talking to people that were out of town.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. I think we'll start trying to have a little bit more of that going on, even on our one-day events, just so people know. And
some sort of camaraderie type, thing after. I think everybody likes that type of stuff.
For sure. So then that ends day one. Going to day two. It was kind of, weren't the lists or the rankings weren't all finalized, right? They weren't out.
So they were accidentally hidden. Our TO didn't realize the box was checked on BCP to hide rankings.
I think it defaults to hiding rankings and hiding. I forget what the other thing was. We didn't want matchups declared. That's fine.
No,
you can hide those. But if you also kind of see the rankings,
you can kind of figure it out.
Right? Who's gonna pair off? And everyone's all anticipating or and so me, dude, I can't figure it out. So I go home and I just start mathing it out. I went through everyone's thing and I was like, okay, day one standings, here's what it is. And it kind of started shaking out to me that I'd probably play the Mumuks. Two of them, right? He brought two. So he brought the 400-point one that's the war leader, and then he brought his sidekick, right?
Yeah.
And this was a classic Batman and Robin scenario for me, right? So the scenario pool for this was rough, right? And I wanted to caveat one thing. So we get the day two started, and I get put on the same board I played the night before. So against the Hobbits, I'm back on that Mines of Moria board, and I was kind of like, man, that's kind of a bummer. I want to play on something different. And I asked the TO, I'm like, hey, I've already played here. Is there another open board? There was. So we ended up playing on Tyler's Gondor Ruins kind of board. And there's no area terrain. There's some trees and there's some buildings, but there's no area terrain. So there's no hiding from the monsters, the beasts, the march, the trample. So I knew I had to really kind of be on my A game, and there was not going to be anything I could do too much to be cagey. So we did go through, verify everything that would be 2 inches or not, that he could move over and couldn't. He was very gracious with that, explaining what could and couldn't. He also made sure that he pushed it for some, hey, I do think this one's less than 2. I'd like this one to be something that we could go over. Cool. And he did a great job explaining everything to me before the game. I've never played a Mumuk before, faced one before. And James is kind of the guy that he's the Mumuk Pro. I just faced the Hobbit Pro, and now I'm facing the Mumuk guy. So
going from 80 models to 18.
Yeah. So although the terrain did not favor me in this one, the scenarios did. And the scenarios were lead from the front, which just is 3 objectives in the middle, and you have to have the highest tier heroes there. I have 2 legends and a Valor. That's really, I have a chance in that one. Then it was Treasure Hoard, 6 objectives on the ground with intelligence checks, and those Herod guys are not that smart.
Right.
And then the Convergence one. So Birdie's intelligence is 3, right? He just grabs things and moves on with his life, no problem. Aragorn's very smart, Legolas is smart. Marohan guys, the whole point I brought him, they're 6 up. So he was like, oh man, yeah, I don't feel confident even digging these up. Getting off and then digging them up. And I was like, well, I have 2 objective type scenarios. I should probably lean into those instead of lead from the front where his big ass monsters would love to be. And then they're kind of, all the objectives are in a line. So I'm I'm just imagining one of these just coming up the side and just going this way. Yeah, that got vetoed for me. And then he had to pick between the 2, and he picked he shied away from the one that was intelligence based,
Right.
and he went with convergence. I don't know, looking back, if that was the right choice.
Yeah.
Because Treasure Hoard, you still get to deploy in a 12-inch bubble, and he would have had both his guys together. I think they would benefit from that. Because even if I have all the objectives or whatever, he could still be squishing me. I think there's a little more play there. But convergence is same side.
Yeah.
One of your warbands here, one of yours here, and they alternate. Well, he unfortunately for him, one deployment, which is fine. Normally, you get to pick your side, and there was some advantageous stuff going on with what side. But then you're showing your cards. He only has 2 cards to show.
Right.
He popped Robin on the one side. I'm going to call this one Robin. It's big blue, this elephant, on the left. And I always knew this is the one that doesn't have the ability to shut down my moves. It's fight 4 max. And I just kind of had a feeling that I had the tools with Aragorn and the lightsaber, and then Gwaihir to handle that, right? So I put Aragorn down first, and then my plan was always like Leggy shooting the lights off of that guy, right? The war chief,
leader,
the beast or whatever, right? Boom, 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 and then Gwaihir, right? Lined Gwaihir up, left a little space for him so that when I called the march, Gwaihir's grabbing the objective turn 1. Now this is why I asked, did I do this wrong? 15 inches or 17? It would have mattered. I played it as 15. Now my dumbass, if that's my fault and it's 17, on me. But 15 was enough for me to get to it and then kind of hide behind a building. Okay? Well, my actual model head, you know, and the actual eagle is behind the building. So he's probably not getting shot, but that's not how elephants play. They care about your base. So the base was over the edge of the building's thing a little, and he's like, sorry, my guy. It's a tournament, I'm trying to win. And he's like, I'm clipping this. Like, I am clipping this right here. And I'm like, valid, dude. Like, what I'm learning here. And he's like, no.
They don't charge, they just move.
They just move, right? He didn't need to line of sight to see me.
Right.
He just needed my base sticking out a little bit.
So you flip it,
Well, he's like, what do you want to do? Well, what else did Gwaihir do that first turn? Grab the objective. What does that mean? It's an heirloom. Hey, Gwaihir, roll to see if you're transfixed. Boom. Transfixed on the first turn. He's transfixed. And he's like, I'm going to march. It's like, I know you are. I know you are. And he just was like, I'm going to run this thing over. And I'm like, I am in danger. And I had to decide if I wanted to have Aragorn, who obviously was still within 6 inches of Gwaihir from the march, to kind of like eat it before Gwaihir. But I was like, you know what? Full might Gwaihir, 3 wounds, 3 fate, 3 might. I don't know if you have enough. I mean, let's just see how the dice go. I think that little guy, the blue one, he only has 3 on the charge, whereas the big guy gets 4.
On the trample?
Hits or whatever. And so he ended up getting 2 wounds. He did get 2 on Gwaihir. I just took him. Took him on the chin, and then that's when I started seeing more of his tricks. He starts rappling dudes down, and he starts putting some control zones out to block, and then he's like, I have rocks and the rest, and I'm gonna freaking pummel you with I'm like looking at Gwaihir, I'm like, dude, you just got ran over, and now they're gonna throw rocks at you, right? Like, this is not looking good. But I had some plan, and my plan was control zones are coming down to block. That's fine, because Aragorn hadn't used his point of might yet.
Right.
So I ganked one, heroic combated, and then rolled those into his leader.
Right.
Or his Mumak. Well, they also get 1 free heroic combat every turn.
The Mumax?
So smartly, he's like, well, hold on. I'm gonna do my heroic combat before you can even get into me. So I'm still fighting your transfixed Gwaihir.
Right.
Oh God. So then he's got like, now he's doing the trample thing. It runs over, it's like Monster's Charge. So Gwaihir would have been prone if he lost this fight.
Right.
Transfixed, he's not getting any strikes back, and he's prone. I did whatever I needed to do to win the fight.
Spend the might,
I don't even know. I might have 6'd it, I forget, but it was only 3 dice. Aragorn's nearby, so the banner's kicking off. But the whole fight against him, he set the bar the whole time, and then I just had to beat it because of my higher fight value. But I'm like, I'm not losing Gwai here. He's got one of the objectives.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I got to do to keep him alive. Aragorn gets in there, kills this little Haradrim. I get in there with a couple other buddies, and I go for it, right?
Right.
Two-hand it. 3's the wound, and I put 2 wounds on him on the first turn. He like rolled 4, and this is the dummy one. Like this is not the master, so he needed to spend a will and a might.
Yeah, to not
stampede. Well, he's out of might now. And Mr. Mighty Hero is sitting over there like, we can do this all day.
Yeah.
Right? Like full Captain American style. Like I can do this all day. So then it becomes, what do I want to do? And Gwai here comes alive again. He's like, I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. I was transfixed. And he flies over, and this is like probably one of my cooler moves of the tournament. He flies over the elephant to his guy that was running towards the objective, and just charges him. Aragorn swarms with all the guys. You got to do this thing where you bubble wrap Aragorn, so that he doesn't repel guys down and pull them off. Right. But also he could try to like repel guys, pull them off, and then also like shoot. There's all sorts of stuff that he could be doing. Right. So I bubble wrapped him. I kind of was catching on to the Mumak tricks. Right. And then I called that for a Frodo thing. Yeah. So they were re-rolling the 1s. Right. Which means...
And you can get all in there because you're fearless, right? Like you didn't even have to roll for that.
Yeah. That really won the game for me. Yeah. Because he had Harbinger, and then I'm just doing this for free, like just because Aragorn's alive. Right. He told me that was like the biggest factor. But when you're for Frodo turn and you're Aragorn, you're only failing 2s because you two-hand. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty. That's pretty nasty. But then he was kind of feeling okay about it because there were just a bunch of dudes. But the whole point was Gwai here was gonna barge this dude just off into the distance, further away from the objective, and then I called a heroic strength. No, I called a heroic strength. Oh, nice. He comes in the ass of this Mumak, and then we just lit it up. Yeah.
So you had priority on that?
Yeah.
You must have. Yeah.
I had priority there. Yeah. Killed it.
Yeah. Wow.
Guys are falling out of thing, dying. He's rolling like a gang of dice. Every single die is dead. Then like the break was getting close. Legolas had already pumped the other guy with a couple of wounds. He did line up a good trample, and he wrecked a good amount, and I ended up being 1 model away from breaking. But I had 2 of the objectives in the center with Gwai here. My dominant kicked off. I had more than him. I broke him. It was rough, the score at the end. But I think it was partially the scenario pool. Yeah. Was favorable for me on that one with the objective styles. And then I think I just have a pretty good hard counter to the Mumaks with the Fearless, and I mean, they have high defense, but I'm wounding them on 3s, you know, and so.
Yep. Okay, so what was the next score? It was like...
On that one?
Yeah. Was that your 20-0?
No, that was against Wally. 17-0 maybe or something like that. Okay. I think it was partially because like he killed one of my guys that had the objective, and then he trampled the other guy. Yeah. Oh, something that comes up in that. We learned this as we were playing, but he's trampling a guy with the objective, right? Yeah. But if he tramples the guy at, let's say he's at 6 inches or 7, and his trample's gonna take him to 8, he has to stop. Because his trample would keep him going, and he would end on the objective. I'm not sure if they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he was claiming that they can't, which I think is fair, because you can't just sit on any objective. Right. So interesting. He was like, I was like, boom, like, what do we do now? And he's like, we just put the marker back. Yeah, interesting. So that came up. Yeah.
All right, so for me, same scenario pool, treasure hoard, lead from the front, convergence. Yeah. I was playing against Eli, who made the flight down from Washington to come join us. Super cool dude. He was playing Black Gate. Yep. He had 2 troll chieftains, the Mouth and the Taskmaster. And yeah, we were playing on, we have a guy who made this really cool Weathertop board, Joseph. And that board is super fun. It was the first time I ever played on it. It was very difficult for me to play on because it's Weathertop. It's just this big mountain hill, like right in the middle. he did a really good job balancing how he built it. Like there were paths up there and everything, but I have these big ass bases for my dragons.
Yeah.
Right? So right off the bat, I was like, this is gonna be a challenging. Like didn't matter what the scenarios were. Like this is gonna be challenging because of the board. The scenarios I think added to that challenge for both of us because like the way it works, right? There's like the objectives are either going to be like on each side of the hill.
Because you did treasure hoard?
Right. Yeah. Or there was the lead from the front, right? That's the middle.
Those would be right on Hominid.
Right on the top. And then convergence. So that was the corners like coming in, right?
You still would have had to go to the middle.
Yeah, up the mountain, like up the. So both of us were kind of looking at this, like I don't actually know what scenario we want to play here, and we ended up choosing treasure hoard. I honestly can't remember who vetoed what because we were both kind of
bouncing back and forth.
I don't remember. We ended up playing treasure hoard, and that was a super cool game. Now, with his like the Eye of Sauron or the Temptation of Sauron or whatever, it never went off for him. So that was unlucky. He targeted goblins a couple times too. For whatever reason, the goblins still said no. Never went off, so that was unlucky for him. Also, I mean, he's such a good player. I didn't know this. He told me after, but with the Eye of the Temptation thing, if you fail, he can force you to drop objectives, which I was not even accounting for. I totally forgot. Thankfully, my dragons that picked him up were intelligent enough to never fail a check.
+5?
Yeah, 5 plus. Yeah. And then, like I said before, I hadn't really played dragons before this tournament. I just wanted to really play them because they look cool, and they look strong. So typically, like I always start with some goblins in front of my my dragons because I don't necessarily want them to get charged right off the bat. And that's just how I default to deploying. Now in this one, there was no need for that because we're so far apart and there's this giant ass mountain in the middle. Like there's no way anyone could charge anybody.
And he has no shooting.
Yeah. So there was zero reason for me to deploy that way. And he immediately first turn was like the goblin right in front of your dragon that can't fly, make him make the test. Because like he was gonna just roadblock.
Smart,
right? Thankfully, as soon as he picked that, I was like, oh crap, like that was such a big mistake. Thankfully, my goblin was fine, luckily for me.
That's a big roll.
That was a big one because that would have set my dragon back like an entire turn for contesting on those objectives. And so that goblin passed. From that point on, I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again. And there was no goblins in front of my dragons the rest of the game. So unlucky for him, lucky for me. And the way that it shook out, my flyer picked up the one on my right really quickly and then flew on top of Weathertop, and then from there kind of like picked his target and flew down onto one of the orcs carrying his objective, and killed that dude. Heroic combated just like away because my dragon was on his half of the board with his entire army, and my goblins were just trying to get up the mountain still. So like
mountain cave dweller.
Yes. Yeah, cave dweller and mountain dweller. So like
they have both.
Yeah,
nice.
they get the mountain dweller in the Moria bonus.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, so they get like the cave dweller gives them like the +1. The mountain dweller lets them re-roll, and they don't count rocks as difficult terrain. So they were flying up that mountain, but which is pretty cool. It's like the way like you feel like goblins should be.
They rarely ever get to trigger that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
yeah,
it's cool.
That was pretty fun. My flying dragon had 2 objectives on his half, and it was I was just planning on trying to avoid his army, as the rest of my force caught up.
Yeah.
Because I had gotten that dragon into a sticky spot. Now I was just hoping it would be able to hold out. Eventually, it didn't. He killed it, and it took him pretty much the entire game to kill it. He killed it on the second to last turn, and then there was one more turn I think after that. and because what ended up happening was he would heroic move. I think he got a couple with he got a couple. No, he got a couple of them back with the
Taskmaster.
Taskmaster.
Coming clutch.
Yeah. His mouth, he channeled Transfix every round, and I nailed the 6 every time. Well, I think one time I spent a might.
Yeah.
But
resistant.
Yeah, resistant to magic, and all of the mouths might went to Transfixes, which didn't end up doing anything. I think it forced at least one might out of me, which was the right play. It just didn't work, and then eventually, like the amount of forces just overwhelmed that one dragon, because my other one, the slow one, was just slowly lumbering up the mountain, picks up his objective, and then continues. Now on that side where he was just kind of slowly starting to peek over, Eli's chieftain he failed 2 times trying to pick up his objective, needing 6s. 6+.
Brutal.
To be fair, on my side, Derber's also failed twice, needing 6s. So that like balanced out, but his was way more like urgent because my dragon was like slowly coming up.
A little bit more of a threat.
Yeah, and he just couldn't get it. And sure enough, like I got the dragon over there. I had to be moving because of how like the position was. I was moving a full 6 inches just to be able to see him. So I wasn't able to get the breathe fire off, but I was able to transfix him. And so he was there, like in his big troll chieftain base, was blocking off the path for his other orcs to get to that objective.
Yeah.
So he ended up having to make some climb checks for his orcs to try to get up and then around, which he succeeded. And then there's random Moran orc picked it up, like the first try. But now it was standing right there in front of the dragon.
Yeah.
Right. Because and it was blocking his chieftain from a heroic move to get into my dragon.
Ooh.
So it was stuck there. His one orc. And yeah, next turn I compelled that orc into the dragon and killed it and
took it. Yep.
And so at that point I had 5 of the 6 objectives, but the one dragon was
holding 2 of them,
holding
right?
2. I was hoping was going to get away, never got away. The game ended up getting decided because the goblins on my left flank just ran forward, never went into any combats. Like 10 of them just ran towards the end of the board and ended up getting me the 2 points for having models on your opponent's side of the board. He killed my dragon carrying the 2 objectives, but since I had gotten the 1 from him, we both ended up with 3. Nobody broke, although it got super close. We were both like 2 models off. And I tried breathing fire onto his chieftain on the last turn. Hit him, and it missed on him and succeeded on like every other guy in the splash. Literally every single one. It killed like 12 models, but it did not wound the leader, which is like what I was hoping it would do.
Oh, so he had a lot of bodies left. Because if that was the last turn, like when you're saying you're getting close to broken, you had to have that go off to get close.
Yes, well, 10 were including mine. So like I killed like 3 of mine and like 7 of his.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought you were killing all Moranans there.
No, because there was a bunch of combats happening and I just nuked it.
Got it, okay.
And I like mathed it out to where I was like, okay, if I kill all, 3 of mine and like 7 of yours, that's, that would bring us pretty close to both of us breaking.
Sure. Yeah.
It was risky because if I just killed myself and not him, then that would be a big
deal. The dice went wrong.
Yeah. It was risky. But there was also the chance of getting that leader wound, and if he didn't fade it, because he was out of might, and if he didn't fade it, just killing it outright.
Sure. Yeah.
3-point
swing.
It just didn't. That was the only wound that didn't pop off for that fire. So that's the way the dice go sometimes. It was still a very competitive, really good game. And the board made it way more interesting.
Yeah.
Which was fun. I like it. I mean, some people would complain about, difficulties like that. I love playing on different themey boards and the challenges that different terrain present. This was a very challenging one to play on, which I really enjoyed.
I'm curious to know because are all his Valor? And aren't yours all Valor?
Yeah.
But he's got a 4th hero, and you only have 3?
Is it Taskmaster Fortitude? I think that was Fortitude.
Yeah. So maybe he wanted to get rid of lead from the front because it's like you can get the dragon there and he can just be pumping on each side.
Right.
Then,
but I can't get it central. Like I can't get there's no way for me to get my fire breather into the center of the board.
Because there is a center objective.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just like the way that Weathertop is, there was actually no physical way for me to move it through the arches or anything like that.
Yeah. So then maybe you vetoed Convergence.
Yeah, that may have been it. I really don't remember.
I could see that being the case because that would be tough for you because you're starting in the corner, and the goblins really have to. It's going to be a slow
book it.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably was the one I got rid of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really good game.
Cool. I'm pretty jealous you had to play Eli. I wanted to play him with being an out of towner and stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down, Eli.
Yeah, I think that was like an 8-6 victory for me.
Close one. Okay, so as I had prefaced before, I hadn't played on a single board. I didn't get to face the Moomox with any sort of area terrain, and it finally came around round 5. So we're playing on my Barrow Downs board. I'm facing Joseph. He brought Radagast Alliance, which is Radion and Eagle, Great Eagle, and then like a fledgling with him. Beorn with a Great Eagle, and then Gwaihir with the fledgling. That's the whole army.
Yeah.
Scenario pool. Sites of Power, which is dark, and Maelstrom, and spreading around the whole board. The other one was Contest of Champions, which you can now pick Beorn, or anybody as your general, which he's picking Beorn, or his as champion.
Yeah.
And then Lords of Battle. So there were 2 from the same pool. Most matchups, I got Aragorn or Gwaihir, and I'm loving it. Well, Beorn is just making Aragorn look like, like Diet Coke. He's just like the freaking miniature version of like, I'm like looking at every single thing. Oh, I have higher fight value than you, I have higher strength than you, I have higher defense than you. Like, oh, okay. And then he has his own Gwaihir, right? With a friend.
Yeah.
So, if I'm bringing Legolas in, he can just barge and pull Legolas off, or, Ratty can transfix somebody. And so basically I looked at it. He got rid of Sites of Power. I think he was afraid that Gwaihir, or that Beorn would get charged on that 50-50 roll-off turn 1 and just get ganked as a man.
Right.
He also doesn't have that many bodies.
Right.
So I have a potential to just swarm him and then have nowhere for him to transform.
Right.
He got rid of that. So I'm sitting here between Lords of Battle against everything that's D8, 7 D8, whatever, or Contest. Well, Contest is not pretty much a non-option. Contest comes down to kills, not wounds, nothing else. So Beorn gets 2 kills, I gotta kill 2 eagles to match it. What the hell, So that's, after I look at it, I'm like, that's out. As weird as that sounds, I have Aragorn, King Elisar, you want him right dead center and he's ripping through things, but there's not enough targets.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, it's Lords of Battle. Well, who's got the lower defense? Who's got the lower fight value? He's got a lot of juicy little men just running around, and he's got all beasts. It was finally time to use the terrain to my advantage. I took my army, he put Beorn in the middle with an eagle, and at that point I decided I'm gonna put my whole army in the forest. I was playing on my Barrow Downs board. There's a whole side that's a shared forest, and once he committed his 1 woodland creature to the middle, I'm like, oh, it's on. Leggy just sat at the edge of the forest and was just like, guys, let me just show you how we do it in Mirkwood. And he just told all the Minas Tirith guys to hang tight. We went over the exact rules about fly and you can't land in the woodland, and that if my guys are, I made my intention clear, I'm not on the actual edge of the forest, I'm a little bit in.
Yeah.
So you can't just like land at the edge of the forest and say you're charging me. You would have to land and then 4-inch crawl in, which is really like 2 inches.
Yeah.
And them only being able to move 2 and me being able to move 3.
Yeah.
And then Legolas can move 6. Camped in the corner. Assault rifle at the front. Gwaihir in the back, and it was like, let's go. Well, he did really good maneuvering the first turn and hid like all of his eagles. Like I could, like behind rocks. I couldn't even see him because wings don't count.
Right.
So they're all behind my perfect little rocks that I made. This is my board, so I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Okay, good to know. But he had a proxy for Radagast, like on top, and I could see him.
Yeah.
I also have sharpshooter.
Right.
Well, I just found the D5 in your army.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm shooting Radagast turn 1.
Yeah.
I just knew that what you did to me last year, Lords of Battle round 5, is you get 1 wound and you flip the script.
Yeah, they have to charge you.
They have to. And he had no shooting.
Right.
So I picked Radagast. I got all my 3 shots. I did my in the ways. 1 got through, and I got a 5. He failed the first fate. Tried the second one, failed again. Spent might to. He rolled a 2. Spent 2 might to have it not keep snowballing. But that was enough. Now fate counts as wounds. I'm up 2-0. Then he's realizing like, okay, shit, right? He starts sending Bayorn, transforms him, starts getting him to the woods. He's like, I gotta get in. He's gonna take the woods.
Right.
From Bombadil's house. He's gonna start coming down the way. And then he started lining up his eagles to kind of set up a big 1 turn, like everyone go.
Yeah.
And while he was kind of lining things up, you kind of have to get within striking range, right? Well, the 24-inch turret that I have in the forest, next turn I get 3 shots. This one had no in the ways. There was not enough rocks to cover all the eagles. I found a fledgling. You only need 6s to wound those, not 6s by 4s. I found one, picked it, 3 hits, 6-5-5.
Teammate. Yeah.
Deleted it.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm up 5.
Yeah.
Now he's lost the whole body. Now the numbers are really starting. He dismounts Ratty to get him off so he can't get picked off anymore. And he has stalk unseen when he's not on it. So then he replaced the bird with the bird.
Right.
And he's starting to line it up again. And we had 2, I gotta tell you about these 2 major roll-offs. There was 2 major moments in this game, and this pretty much was the whole game. The bear has to charge. So I lined up the charge, knowing that like if you want to come in, you're gonna get Aragorn and you're gonna get the guy, but then I'm gonna be able to trap you. Call my for Frodo, we're tied, and then I just need to roll a 3 up to max. And you know, I know you're gonna too, but I have the Elven Blade.
Right.
So then I'm thinking, oh, this is great. I have the re-rolling 1s. I got Aragorn's in a 2-hand. He only has 6 wounds. This thing could go down. He goes, Joseph is known for having like some of the worst dice rolls, and he actually created a thing called a dice jail. That if his dice do bad, he puts them in timeout, and they go in this little rock that he made, and it has a jail. And so it's time, and I rolled at the beginning of the game to be good. He's evil. The roll-off is coming.
Right.
And he goes to the dice jail and brings out the ringer die. This die is a ringer in a bad way. It's like it's in timeout, right? And he just bangs the 2. Oh. And the monstrous charges up. Takes his dice. Now he goes back to the regular dice, not the dice jail dice.
Yeah.
And he gets 3 wounds on Aragorn.
Oh wow.
I fate 2 of them away, and I spent 1 point of might to not take the other wound.
Yeah.
To keep my leader VP untouched. But he got 3 of them.
Yeah.
Not really great numbers. I think he should have got more.
Yeah.
I think it was 8 dice needing 4s. I think he should have had better numbers there, but it is what it is. And he already had numbers in his favor by even winning the strike off.
Right.
Or winning the roll off. So that was like that first big one.
Yeah.
And by God, that really kind of my eyes flashed, my tournament flashed before my eyes, because I'm like, hey, Aragorn goes down here, I'm done.
Yeah, that's the game.
On the other side, he had kind of lined up some good moves with like Gwaihir charged my Gwaihir, and then his other eagle kind of started coming in for some control zone blocking. Once again, my auto courage is coming in great. I just tag an eagle, no control zone, but he had priority. He had it.
Yeah.
So when I went to go tag Legolas into Gwaihir, now I'm trying to get that Elven Blade in there again. I looked at it and I was like, holy crap, he can just barge. He can just barge with the other eagle right into Legolas and pull him off. I had no way to stop that.
Right.
So my last point of might with Legolas, I actually called a heroic combat. Okay? To trigger that to go first because he had called a defense with his Gwaihir.
Right.
I called a strength with mine.
Right.
He called a strike with Beorn, and I called a strike with Aragorn. So he had no way to heroic combat. So my heroic combat automatically went first. Legolas calls it. Then I use Gwaihir to barge. And I barge his Gwaihir, who had defense, up and out, pushed his other bird further out, and then my Gwaihir charged his other bird with strength up.
Okay, yeah.
With one other guy, the one guy that I just tagged him with,
Yeah.
and Gwaihir, and he was trapped with Legolas and 2 other guys. So it's the only people in the combat are Gwaihir and my one dude that pinned him.
Right.
But I had strength.
Right.
And I had the fight value.
Right.
And I won the fight, and I ripped that bird open with Gwaihir.
Yeah.
And then and then he didn't kill Aragorn. So it was kind of getting a little tight. And I went back in the next turn. Dice again. Charge Beorn. I have the heroic move for free. So now he only has 3 dice. Charge him. We do the strike off again. I roll a 1. I don't have for Frodo up anymore. It's gone.
Yeah.
Didn't use it at all. Rolled a 1. He rolled a 2. Or he rolled like a 3 or whatever. He's maxed out at 10 and I'm at 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's gonna kill Aragorn.
Yeah.
Like, we're done.
Yeah.
You know. But he used all his might. All his might is gone. And I'm like, all right, dude. I mean, like, you get this 6, it's over, right? Like, it's done. Takes the dice. 3, 2, 2.
Oh God.
Instantly, he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. and he just like, I'm going to the bathroom. And I'm like,
gosh.
I'm like, dude, I feel so bad. Like,
that's rough.
And he's surrounded.
Yeah.
And he's like, just kill him. And I'm like, all right. You know, 2 hand, everybody gets in there. Gwaihir cleans up the rest. Yeah, I had to use the terrain to my advantage. I don't think I had a shot in those type of scenarios against that army in the open ground.
Right.
There wasn't, it's Barrow Downs. There's not like anywhere to put models up and kind of be like, you know, Legolas and then like guys bodying so that he can't land on a platform. There was nothing like that. So it was the forest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Prince of Mirkwood took me home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a pretty big win on the last round. And I was pretty excited to see what happened on top table because I was feeling like I had a lot of big wins.
Yeah.
And I was right there chomping at the bit in the 4-1 category. I know there was a lot of people that were 4-1, but I felt like I had VPs. So I was excited to see what happened on the top table.
Yeah.
All right, so that was my round 5.
Yeah.
And we gotta see what happens with yours.
Yeah. So round 5, Lords of Battle, Contest of Champions, Sites of Power. I'm playing against Geo, who is running Breaking of the Fellowship. He's got the entire Fellowship minus Merry and Pippin, and
Smart.
and Haldir and a bunch of elves. So looking at the scenarios, my initial reaction was like, I feel like this favors him. But upon reflecting on it more, I realized I think it actually favored me. The only one I really didn't want to play was Lords of Battle, because he just had so fewer models than me.
It's a strong list. That's a strong scenario for him with the shooting and stuff.
Yeah, and me not even be able to target him, like with his elven cloaks
Yeah,
and
with
stuff.
the cloaks, yeah.
So yeah, he only has the heroes in combat that he wants in combat, pretty much. But yeah, so I vetoed that right away. I rolled low, so I vetoed first. Lords is gone. He's looking between Contest of Champions and Sites of Power, and he was really conflicted. And like I said, initially I thought Contest favored him, but upon reflection, I was like, well, we elect our own leaders now, or our own champions.
Champion, yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be the general, so he's probably still gonna pick Aragorn, but I'll pick my flying dragon. And the way it would shake out was Aragorn would charge into some goblins, and my fire breather would just breathe fire into that combat and kill my own goblins and eventually kill him. So denying Aragorn the chance for any kills, like ever.
Right.
So I think he was smart. I think he realized that and vetoed it, and went with Sites of Power. So we were playing on Joseph's Amen Hen board, which has a lot of forested terrain, and it has like one really big elevated position, kind of mountainous, that is easily accessible through 2 big paths, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's just a big cliffside. So he has to Maelstrom in first, his first warband. He rolls, and Haldir comes in with his elves on the west side, which is that high rise.
Yep.
And just kind of spreads out. There's like forest right there. So right off the bat, he's in the forest. So I can't do anything about it. Aragorn rolls, and then he spends the might to also come in on the same spot. So he chose to kind of group up up there. And I rolled pretty well for my Maelstrom. I came in, I only had to spend 1 might on my fire dragon, and essentially like they came in on the north and south sides. Durbers came in on the north with the flying dragon, and those dragons just kind of sat right on those 2 big ways down. He was gonna have to go through the dragons if he wanted to get to the objectives on the rest of the board. He chose to heroic march with Aragorn, and he chose to bravely march away from that fire dragon. Just booked it with everybody. So that dragon, that 300-point model for me, never cast a single spell, never breathed any fire, was never anywhere where he could do anything. Like, even though he was moving 6 inches the whole time, but he locked down almost like 3/4 of the board for me. Like, I got all of the objectives.
Right.
Because he just decided not to. His goal was to punch through on the other side, and my goal was to just hold him there for as long as possible. And
with Durbers and the dice.
with Durbers,
Yeah.
and the
Flying dragon.
The flying dragon. Yep. So it was going okay. Like, we were both kind of trading blows. He was draining over the course of a few rounds. He drained all of the fate, all of the might out of my dragon, except for 1. I had 1 left. And it came down to a series of crucial rolls for him. He had charged my dragon with a couple of random elves. He had Aragorn in on a single goblin that he did his heroic combat with. He had Gimli in on a single goblin that he did a heroic combat with. He had Sam and Haldir both on the same goblin. Sam getting a free heroic combat because Frodo was in a combat next to him.
Yep.
Right? So all these heroic combats.
Lots of heroes.
Yes. And Haldir used his last point of might to strike. So so he had the striker coming in on the combat. He had Aragorn coming in on the combat, and Gimli. Well, he does Aragorn first. Aragorn, and I have my last point of might, and I choose to defense. That was my last might. I think I only had 2 or 3 wounds left on the Drake at that point. Maybe it was 4, but it was low. It was low, and I had nothing else. No fate. So I used my last point of might to heroic defense because I'm thinking, okay, like he's gonna get like,
A couple maybe through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does Aragorn's combat, goes fine. He kills that goblin. Aragorn charges in. He does Gimli's combat next, and Gimli whiffs, like rolls like a 2 high, with his banner, with his Galadriel hair reroll, like it stayed a 2. And I think he'd already spent might for some other stuff, and Gimli was out. So, all right, Gimli's not joining the combat. Then we go to Sam and Haldir's heroic combat against a single shielding goblin. I get the 6. He does not. He's also out of might over there. So like his striker, it's totally brutal. Wasn't able to get that combat off and go into the dragon. And that, if I could say, that was probably the only like strategic mishap that was there. Like doing that one first, and if it fails, then you don't charge Aragorn in on the dragon. But mostly it was just a series of bad dice rolls for him.
Right.
And now he was like, oh crap, I have Aragorn in on this dragon, and I do not outfight it anymore. And
I have no defense.
No defense, yeah. So I won that combat. I barged and charged into Aragorn and killed him.
Right. With defense up. That's
defense up. So it completely flipped, and that was kind of like his main hope, was to kill the dragon there and then start marching through onto the objectives with his free Aragorn point of might.
Right.
And with Aragorn dead, like that was just that hope was gone. So Yeah, it was such a rough turn for him, and he still was like, yeah, we got a couple more, we got some time, let's keep going. But I think we both kind of knew like that was the turn that like it completely changed for him, because he probably would get, he'd for sure get a few wounds on the dragon, if not kill it outright.
With everybody joining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's not the way it went. And I was able to just continue bottling him up there, and that's how the game ended. Durbers was on that objective, really close to all the heroes. He was in a lot of danger with all that might and the fellowship around him, but the objective was on like a ledge, and he was able to climb up that ledge and stand there right next to the objective, and there was no way for him to charge me because he would have had to end on the objective. So Durbers with his dominant 3 was there, annoyingly just kind of like taunting the fellowship. They couldn't get there.
Yeah. Would have had to shoot him.
He was trying to shoot the dragon. Yeah. And it was enough of like, there was enough close combats in there, and the cliff. Like his normal bows couldn't have done. Legolas could have, but he was focusing Legolas on the dragon.
Oh, on the dragon with the 2 up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Durbers was never, I mean, he was in danger, but he really wasn't. Because of the way that the objective had to be placed. So I think that ended up being like a 14-0 victory for me. It was much closer than 14-0, because if he had been able to punch through that dragon, I think his strategy may have paid. I don't know if there was enough time, but it would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Punch through there. And that's the way it went.
Yeah, because if you break, then there's goblins that are covering all over the place. Might be.
Yeah, except those damn sites of power. There's the chance that you auto pass courage.
33% chance. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
It's not that simple.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that was a matchup we kind of talked about. That was going to be a tough one for you, and you did get it, and you overcame it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We had just a great tournament. I thought overall, we ended up with Scott from LA with his Army of the White Hand in first.
Yep.
Nick and his Watcher with Moria in second. I came in third with Men of the West, and you came in fourth with the Double Dragon Moria. And then our buddy John got fifth with Reclamation. So it was a pretty good spread. We are going to break down some of the lists in another video. This one went a little long. But we just, there was 5 rounds. There's a lot to talk about. We were really excited. We wanted to also make sure we were giving, our opponents and, their aspect of the game a good chunk of our time, and their strategies. They did great. We played good opponents. And then to everyone that went to the tournament that traveled from a long ways, thanks for coming out. It was awesome. Great having you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll
see you guys in the next one.